Look at you reading the instructions.
They're not helpful at all. I'll explain why. The minimum height that they explain for an install involves a cabinet about 10 inches tall, and this is actually shorter than 10 inches on the inside. So I've had to reconfigure anyway. I'm just gonna throw these out over here.
Today's project is a really common Airstream project that we see people do all the time, and I think that it's worth doing. We are going to put a gas strut here so that this stays open. Right, so now it's not gonna fall closed, but so this will stay up, and likewise here in the bathroom, this one doesn't stay up either, and it would be a lot easier, just more pleasant to use if it did hold itself up with the strut. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to empty out both cabinets, and we are going to see if we can figure out how to do this. So let's get started. So that is Andrew's high risk method, and it,
for the record, it's a terrible idea because you forget you did it and then
you move the door or something and it brains you. So today we are solving this problem, which I'm looking forward to. So I'm going to just empty this out. We actually don't have a lot of this kind of stuff, which is why we removed the one that was lower here. You can still see the holes from the screws. But what we do have does need better organization, so I'm going to take care of that since I'm going to have to empty it anyway. For the record, this has already been modified. We took the shelf out of the lower one and we added it here. Andrew thought that we could use the space more effectively. Most of our things are small, and I don't have a lot of like personals and stuff, so this worked out and has worked out really, really well. However, it may cause a problem with us trying to add the strut. I don't really know the measurements on that, but stay tuned because you're going to find out.
it's almost like juggling.
Sure, honey.
Are you having fun?
No.
I found 2 holes up here that a previous owner has added to this cabinet for some sort of strut, because there's a second set of holes here. Now, that won't work for this design, but I'm going to use these to test the fitment and see if this is the right location for this anchor point. Second anchor point will be somewhere down here, and I need to figure out exactly where. I've compressed this just to see what the distance is center to center, about 6 inches. The way this works is the bottom will hook into this ball, so I need to figure out exactly where to place that. I've used a ruler to measure that center to center, it's 6 inches when compressed. So this is where the ball will have to be, and I need to figure out where to place it here to give me that distance. I've decided I could use a little masking tape to test the location of the ball side of the ball and socket joint, and what I need to verify is if it'll actually clear here at the edge of this shelf when I close the door. The current problem is that the shelf interferes with the shock, and so I've got to figure out how to get a little bit of a change to the geometry here. Furnace just kicked on, I apologize for the noise. This kit comes with 2 different versions of the ball fitting, and this one, if I were to use it, it needs to be so far forward in the cabinet that this screw hole would actually miss the wall of the cabinet. So I think I'm going to switch to this design where I can put it up against the cabinet edge and it'll work better, I think. The goal is to have the strut collapse down without contacting the shelf support or the shelf itself. This is very close to functional. However, I don't think I can get a full horizontal position of the door when it's fully open. Partly because I think this strut is designed to work with a 90-degree opening, and actually this is more than 90 because it actually goes back against the wall. So what that means is this mounting point has to drop slightly, and I have to have the door come down just a little bit.
So do you want to hold that up and I'll close the bathroom door and we'll test?
If you're test fitting these, you'll find that they don't come back out very easy, but you can take, there's that, and I'll put the metal ring back in. And we test?
Please.
As suspected, we will have to take this little corner off of here to have clearance for when the strut comes down and back against. It touches here and the door stops. When I modified this and added this shelf, I don't remember if I glued the side support block to the wall. So I'm going to take out the 2 screws and see if I get any up and down movement. If it's loose and I can take it out, I can simply cut the front edge off this on a bit of an angle. Good news here, this shelf is loose, so I'm just going to remove it and then make this cut and reinstall it.
Well, before you do that, and it's pushed out of the way right there, let's see how it closes, please.
And even make maybe a pencil line so I know exactly how much clearance I need. By the way, taking the screws out with that thing held up was so much better. All right, shelf's back out of the way, we'll test it. That's it. Ooh. Let's see that again. Click lock. With the cabinet closed and fully latched, I found that I had like a 1/4 inch gap at the bottom. And the good news about that is it allows me to mount the plate that holds the ball on it as close to the front of the cabinet as possible. It actually is slightly over, and I'm not concerned about that because what I need is the clearance for the shelf coming by. So think about the edge here. You want your ball about 1/2 inch back and 4.5 up from the bottom. To mount on the door, the main goal is to get the ball centered about 3.25 inches back from the top edge of the door. So we've got the shelf reinstalled. It's notched for clearance over here. Good news is it works. I like that. I saved the veneer by taking a razor blade and cutting it off the edges of the shelves before I cut it for the notch. So I'm gonna now glue those back on and tape them in place with masking tape. The instructions make this a little bit complicated. There's a lot of measurements, but the thing to understand in reality, and I really like the idea of just taping these on where you think they might go, it'll save you putting some extra holes in your cabinets. Putting this on the 2 spots where it mounts shows you that this is where the door will be when the shock is fully extended. It doesn't matter whether you go up or down, it's obviously the same length. Now, the main thing to understand is that this shock won't compress any more than about 6.25 inches. If you wind up with the door closed and your top and your bottom balls are too close together, this thing won't fully compress and it will leave your door hanging open. That's the main thing to understand. So understanding when this closes, where that lands, and then measuring from that point down to the other one, you need more than 6.25 inches. If you have it, the door will fully close. I've put my hole in the middle of the slot on both sides. I've got an 1/8 of an inch or maybe a little more ability to slide that up or down if needed. Good. If I can share some measurements to save you a little bit of time. If you've got a cabinet with a 9-inch tall door, that means you're going to put the center of the ball side, the base of this, at 2.5 inches down from the top, and you'll need to place the other one on the bottom of the cabinet and 4.5 inches back into the cabinet.